Dan Illman, Matt Bernier, race number 5 at Saratoga on Saturday for 3-year-olds, going 6.5 furlongs. It's the Grade 2 Amsterdam Stakes. And let's take a look at this field. The one they're going to have to beat is the number 2 Coal Front. 7-5 on Travis Stone's morning line. A perfect 2 for 2 in his career for Todd Pletcher. And the funny thing is, it looks like he's still figuring things out.
Yeah, you know, he's not been the best as far as lead changes are concerned. In the career debut, he was a little bit late with the lead change. In his most recent start, he was early with the lead change. You can't deny that he has the figs. He's the horse to beat. There's just something nagging at me saying, you know what, at a short number, I'm going to try and beat him.
He was a very temperamental son of Stay Thirsty before his most recent start. He threw a fit behind the gate. Once they got him in, you mentioned he was a little bit early with his lead change, but he ran fast. A 97 Beyer speed figure. If he runs another 97, he's probably going to win the Grade 2 Amsterdam, but he's stepping up in class, and there's some other interesting horses, and I'm with you. At a short price, I'd like to try to find someone else. We do have a couple of horses turning back in distance after taking on a very talented 3-year-old in McCracken in the Grade 3 Matt Wynn Stakes. Let's begin with the number 5, Excitations, who switches to Javier Castellano. I think that distance is just a little bit too far. I mean, you look at his sprint races, he's a head away from being 3 for 3 in his career.
I think Excitations is interesting. Like you say, you go back to his sprint races, there's positives in there, there's things to pull from. Maybe class is a little bit of a concern for him because the only 2 times he's faced graded stakes foes, he's been buried. But I think it's an interesting spot to at least wheel him back. This is what he wants to do. Whether he's good enough or not, we'll find out.
A couple of horses that chased McCracken in that race have come back to do some good things. Colonel's Dark Temper was second, I believe, in the Indiana Derby with a 90 Beyer. The third horse for Neil Howard came back to win an optional claimer at Ellis with the same 90 Beyer speed figure. As for Aquamarine, they tried the distance in the Matt Wynn. He showed the way for a half mile, and he backed up badly. He's run some nice sprint races, including a second to the good Recruiting Ready 2-back.
He's got good speed. Now the problem is, or the concern anyway, did the mile on the 16th route take away that early gas? Because he would have been really interesting if he was able to get out there. Maybe he still can. Maybe Wayne can get the gas back into him early. If he can clear off to the front and make Coal Front come and work and try to pass him, maybe it softens Coal Front up a little bit. I don't have any question that Coal Front's a more talented horse than Aquamarine. I'm afraid that 2-turn race is kind of taking away his edge.
If several horses in this race, then go to the front. And I'm curious to see what our friends at Timeform US have to say about the pace. They believe that Coal Front and Aquamarine, they may be going at it hot and heavy, and that's going to set things up for a couple of mid-pack runners. The number 3, Mo Cash, boy, I'd draw that up right now, and I'd sign on the dotted line if I got Mo Cash at 5-2. I hope he drifts a little bit. Mo Cash, I'm interested in your opinion on the carry back, because last time out, he was hustled out of there by Robbie Alvarado. He set the pace, he cut the corner, and 3 Rules just about did everything wrong in the stretch, and he still beat him. But 3 Rules on his best day is a talented 3-year-old sprinter. What did you think of Mo Cash's performance? Because he's now basically paired up by our tops.
Yeah, it was a gutsy effort. I like the fact that he dug in and he didn't really want to let 3 Rules go by him. It's just, you're probably right. 3 Rules is just a little bit of a classier animal at this point. I don't love this horse, but I can understand if you think he's going to get that trip that's laid out right there. If you look at it strictly from a figure standpoint, he's right there with Coal Front. He's just slightly behind him. And if you think there's a forward move in his 3rd start of the form cycle, then boy, there's really nothing to knock about him. I'm not entirely convinced that the horse that beat him in 3 Rules is the same 3 Rules that we had seen earlier, and I wonder if he were here, I think he would take money, and I would be way against him.
That's a fair point, because 3 Rules has really gone to the wars many times, and some distance is a little longer than what he likes. The 6 Toga Challenger claimed for $40,000 out of his debut by Rudy Rodriguez. Rudy has gotten him 4 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds. Reminds me a little bit of when Dad's Caps was starting his career, sort of stepping up, but he's going to step up off a 92 Beyer performance, and I love this post position for Arad Ortiz. He's going to be sitting outside in mid-pack, keeping an eye on everybody.
If you think this thing's going to heat up early on, he's the one that probably takes advantage. Visually, each of these past 2 races, I know there were wins. Neither one of them was particularly strong. I suppose that one at Belmont most recently, he made a nice move on the far turn, and he just kind of loomed up, but he was all out, and it took a while to really find that gear. I think he's going to appreciate more distance than the 6.5 that he'll get on Saturday. That doesn't mean that he can't use it and run very well.
2 for 2 with blinkers on this horse. solid speed figure last time out, and you always have to respect Rudy. Let's take a look at our picks for the Amsterdam. We'll admit that Cole Front's the horse to beat, but we'll look for a slightly more value. Mo Cash, the 3 is where I'm going. I'm going 3, 2, 6, and 1. But tell us about Singing Bullet. You've always been a fan of this horse. We loved his debut at Ellis Park last year, and Dale Romans then put him in some tough spots after that. He returned off the bench, and it was just like the old Singing Bullet from the debut.
Yeah, really liked the debut, so much so that I picked him in the Breeders' Futurity against Classic Empire. And you know what? Okay, it didn't work out for him. Then the street sense, he's gone for a long time. He comes back at Churchill. He caught a really wet track, so I suppose maybe that's a little bit of a concern. But I like that we got a big move up from a buyer standpoint. And he never looked like a loser. He was professional the whole way. He's slow on paper right now, but you look at the pedigree. The pedigree is enormous, and it gives off the indication that he's probably going to want to go farther than 6.5. I wrote in Formulator, and you can take your notes, that after the career debut, I wonder if he's going to be a turf horse, because you see you've got Hard Spun in there. Life at 10, she could do a million different things. I just think Singing Bullet is an interesting one. If I'm trying to beat Cole Front at 3 to 5, when he probably goes off at, I'll take a shot with him.
What kind of trip do you think you're getting from the rail? Because this is a horse, both of his starts, he's been real forward. The pace projector doesn't have him on the lead, but you got to think that Robbie Alvarado has to be at least somewhat aggressive.
I don't think he's fast enough to get up there with the likes of a Mo Cash or an Aquamarine or even a Cole Front, but I agree. I don't think you want to be completely outrun early. It's going to be interesting to see what we get. I mean, second start off the bench down from the inside. You'd think Alvarado's got to be aggressive. I just don't know that he's got enough early foot to run with those early.
A fourth horse that he beat in that last start came back to win at Ellis Park with a solid 87 buyer. Singing Bullet, beautiful pedigree. Might have just needed a little bit of break to grow into himself. Good 3-year-old debut last time over a sloppy track at Churchill Downs. Matt's going 1, 2, 5. I'm going 3, 2, 6, 1 in a fun edition of the Grade 2 Amsterdam. Race number 5 at Saratoga on Saturday.